my name is Jenna. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I figured we'd do just more of a casual kind of vlog style video where I update you guys on some of the kitchen renovations, where we get some new decor and we style it together. Also, I have a really fun, budget-friendly, beginner-friendly DIY using dried florals. I kind of want to incorporate something from a place that means a lot to me, so I'm going to show you guys that DIY, which I'm excited about. So the first thing that I actually want to do is involving this table that I'm sitting at. I actually purchased it to fit the aesthetic of our rental home because I thought that we were going to be at our last house for a lot longer than we were. And I purchased it for the kitchen area to fit in that bay window just because that had a really beautiful kind of like black and white modern aesthetic with that beautiful checkerboard floor that we put in. But in this space, it almost feels a little bit too modern. Both the kitchen and the living room have more of that like lived in rustic feel, while this bay window area has a little bit more of like that sleek modern aesthetic. So I figured I'd try to do something to kind of tone that down a little bit and make it blend in with the rest of the spaces a little bit better without buying new furniture. So I figured I'd just simply put a tablecloth on this table to kind of give it like that French rustic feel, and I wanted it to have like that casual European linen vibe. I don't know how it's going to look because the black definitely grounds the space, and I know when we put a lighter tablecloth on that, it's gonna make it maybe feel a little bit more washed out. So we'll put it on here and see. So let's try that real quick and kind of see what we think. Obviously we have this cactus here for like that southwestern vibe, but we might need to edit the tabletop decor once we have the tablecloth, just because we might want to make it a little bit more like European. So we'll see. I did measure and I wanted one specifically that reached the ground so you wouldn't be able to see the table underneath. So let's see. She's a little wrinkly. You know, normally I like the casual wrinkled vibe, but for some reason this just looks bad. So I'm gonna run it through the dryer for like 10 minutes to try to get some of these out. Okay, that seemed to help a little bit, so let's see. Okay, so I like it. Like, it's definitely pretty. I like the length of it. I like the color. The only problem is that it definitely does wash out the space a little bit, which was my main concern. I think it'd be pretty if these chairs were another color or if they were wood, but I'm not willing to get new chairs until we get a new table because I want to wait to see how that all looks. So what I'm thinking we'll do is just maybe try to style this with some more substantial styling pieces that are a little bit darker to add some depth to the space. So maybe like some darker chocolate browns or something with like a terracotta color to kind of bring in that Mediterranean feel. So let's try that. Okay, so I just grabbed this vintage olive jar, kind of has a lot of that chocolate brown on there, and then this is just a faux stem that I found off of Etsy, you know, leaning into that casual Mediterranean aesthetic. And then this is a chocolate brown like fruit bowl that I thrifted. Just kind of, you know, feels very European, very rustic. So hopefully these like darker browns are gonna help to ground the space. I kind of already like how this is looking. I also thought it'd be fun to just bring in this candle that I had burning for more of like a romantic feel. Okay, I think I'm liking this. This is kind of more along the lines of what I wanted to do. I just wanted the space to feel a little bit more soft and toned down, not so modern, and have some of those lived-in elements, which is what we were able to do with the styling pieces. So obviously the tablecloth, it kind of adds that softness and then covers the modern table, and then we brought in those more vintagey, chippy, lived-in pieces. So kind of has more of that lived-in casual character, which is what I was going for. But you guys have to let me know in the comments, which one would you do? Would you leave it modern, or do you kind of like the little updated table with the tablecloth and the styling? Okay, so now that we've freshened up our dining space, I figured it'd be a perfect time to show you guys a little groceries / essentials haul because my Thrive Market box just came in the mail, and a big thank you goes out to Thrive for sponsoring today's video. If you guys are unfamiliar with Thrive Market, they are an online membership-based grocery store that offers high-quality products at a low cost, which you guys know that's like what we are all about on this channel. We do it with our decor, why not with our groceries? So not only that, but I really appreciate the convenience factor because lately I've kind of found myself bopping around to all of these different stores to hand pick certain items or like specialty items. And what I really like about Thrive is that it's really convenient. Everything just is delivered right to my doorstep every month. So I get to save all of that time, which is great. I figured we'd open this box up and do like a little rapid fire haul of some of the things that I got. Okay, so the first thing that I got were these rosy cleaning products. So I got dish soap, and then I also got just like an all-purpose cleaner. And these are paraben-free, free of colors, dyes, and additives, and also free of ammonia and chlorine bleach. And also I got the pumpkin and cinnamon spice scent, which I'm so excited about for fall. I also got the rosy dishwasher detergent, and then I also got this Epsom salt bath soap, which is gonna be really nice because it has calming lavender in it. Also, I ordered these organic taco night blends, and these are USDA organic, gluten-free, non-GMO verified, so that's kind of nice because a lot of times with spices you do not know what's in there, so I like that these seem to be good ones. I also got these organic ketchups. They have these LMNT electrolyte drink mixes. These are sour dried cranberries, and this is the watermelon flavor, and I think we need to do an on-camera taste test. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I will say I do like dried cranberries, and then also I'm like obsessed with any sour gummy candy, and these literally taste like a sour gummy candy in a dried cranberry form. Like, they are so good. Oh my gosh. These might be my new favorite thing. I mean, these will be gone probably by the end of the night. If you guys want to try Thrive Market for yourself, you can click the link in my description box or go to thrivemarket.com/Jenna Pierce to receive 30% off of your first order and a free gift when you join Thrive Market today. Again, a big thank you goes out to Thrive Market for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so it is now the next day, and right after I turned the camera off yesterday, this huge dust storm rolled through. I'm pretty sure it made national news. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was definitely one of the bigger ones that we've had. I just kind of stopped filming for the day because we did lose a couple of roof shingles and it was really loud, so I was like, I'm just gonna do the DIY tomorrow. So this is super easy. You can use flowers from a bouquet for this. You can use them from your yard, from a vacation, from the side of the road if you pick them safely. So, you know, you can kind of really get them from anywhere that like means something to you. I kind of wanted to give a little bit of background on what inspired this project. When I was younger, we would go to Wisconsin every year because both of my grandparents lived there. So we would always visit them in the summer. And recently, a couple weeks ago, my cousins and I, we all did like a cousin reunion to where we would all go every summer, and they don't live there anymore, but we did go by just to kind of like take a trip down memory lane. And it was definitely like a weird feeling because I had never been there before when they didn't live there, so it almost felt like I should just be able to go like walk through the front door and they would be inside, and it was just weird that it was someone else's place, and I felt kind of like I was watching a movie of like my past life, like standing there. It was like a weird feeling, but it truly is such a beautiful spot. It's like up on this bluff and it overlooks Lake Michigan, and there's all these wildflowers in this meadow that blow in the wind, and it is such a stunning place, honestly. And I appreciated it as a kid, like I knew it was pretty, but there's just like this feeling as an adult standing there where you like really appreciate like the nature and the view and the peacefulness and like the calm and the weather. So, you know, when I was standing there looking out at the meadow, I just had this thought like, I wish I could bottle up the feeling of like standing here. I wish I could just like take this feeling home with me. So, you know, we obviously went back to the cabin that we were staying at and we had the rest of our trip. And then I had this thought when I was there of like, oh, maybe I could pick some wildflowers and press them from this field and then have them in a wall art piece. So every time I look at the wall art piece, you know, it can kind of transport me back to this time and place. So we ended up stopping by on our way out, me, Mike, and my sister Emily, and we picked some Queen Anne's lace. And then obviously I was on vacation, so I didn't have a big heavy book to press them in. So I actually just decided to do like the quick press method, which actually worked really well. Basically, I crumpled up some parchment paper just so it would lay flat, and then I put one piece of parchment paper down, and then I placed my flowers on top of that, and then I placed another piece of parchment paper on top, and I used an iron at a medium setting with no steam, and I would just like press it over the flowers for like 10 to 15 seconds. I found any longer than like 15 seconds started to burn the flowers, so I would just do really short intervals and like check on them, and that pressed them instantly, and it worked really well. I just put the pieces of parchment paper in a magazine, and then I put that in my backpack, and it transported here really well. So I have the flowers here, and now I want to go pick out a frame. So let's go head to the store and see what we can find. Okay, so I started off at the thrift store because ideally I would have liked to buy secondhand, and sometimes you can get really cute vintage frames here for super cheap, but I wasn't really seeing anything that I loved. The frames were either they're too small or I just didn't like the look of them. So after trying a couple of thrift stores, I made my way over to the craft store. And here, honestly, I was a little bit overwhelmed with all of the choices. I loved these sweet oval frames. I thought they would be a nice shape to mix into a gallery wall. And then I also just loved this simple rustic wood frame. The wood tone kind of reminded me of the 90s, which actually would be great for this specific project. And there were also some beautiful plain black frames with some fun shapes just to add interest. But then I spotted this really beautiful dark wood frame with like a spindle dot texture, and I really liked this one. Okay, so I went with this frame. I really loved the rich color on it, and I thought it was so unique and will add like a fun texture. It kind of has like a vintagey feel to it. Now I have to pick out a piece of fabric, so I'm thinking of doing something like blue, just because I think that would look really good in this frame. Even something just simple like this, like a really simple kind of like denim-y color, that could be pretty. This is kind of cute and reminds me of like summer in Wisconsin. This one is pretty because it has like almost a vintagey look to the fabric itself, which I really love. That's cute. Ooh, okay, I kind of like this. Like this has that vintagey look with the fabric, but I love, you guys know I love a classic stripe. The floral ones are so cute. I love just like the blue and white florals. I also kind of like the lighter blue too. I think that's really pretty. Just like very subtle. Okay, I also like this really simple like linen-y one, but I don't know if this is too boring. It's really pretty though with like those natural fibers in there. Just like really light and delicate and like summery feeling. I love that. Okay, there's also this one too, which is really pretty. I feel like this goes a little bit more with the style of our home. Like this is a little bit more vintagey, old world, and this is a little bit more like Southwestern, French, like all the styles that our home is. I don't know, I just like that one, but it's also kind of like a bigger pattern, so I'm not sure if it would look weird. You know, we're just doing a little tiny backing. Like I'm gonna have this be the back, and then I'm gonna do a sheet of paper on top of the fabric. So this will basically be the mat. So I'm not sure if, you know, because it's a larger scale pattern, if that will look weird, but I'm kind of liking this one now. Okay, so I keep finding ones that I love. I really like this one because it almost has like a little bit of a Southwestern vibe to it. It's not blue though, it's black. So I don't know if I'd be sad to cut out the blue, but I really like how this fabric itself looks kind of, you know, organic and earthy. Okay, we're getting to the point where we have too many options. I also pulled this like lighter blue one. I don't know, I think that might be a little too boring, but since it's just the mat, maybe it's okay if it is just really simple. I feel like just as a mat, this might be too much, even though I love the pattern on it. Okay, so I feel like out of all of these, my eye is just immediately drawn to this one. It's like a good in-between. It's not too simple, it has like some stuff going on, and it still kind of has like that off-white vintagey color when compared to this like crisp white, but it's not like so vintagey like this to where it's kind of like dingy looking. So I think we're gonna go with this one. Okay, so I love how this fabric looks in our space. We got everything all set and ready to go here. All you're gonna need is just a hot glue gun, an acrylic sealer. I picked a flat crystal clear sealer. This is just gonna be to preserve these. So if I ever put this in a spot where it gets direct sunlight, I know that these won't fade because they'll be sealed. Then we have watercolor paper, our fabric, and our frame. So let's go seal these really quick and then we'll get to putting everything together. Okay, so right after I sprayed the florals, I decided to test if they were sticking to the paper, and sure enough, they were. So I just quickly went and got our parchment paper, and then I transferred them over to that so that they wouldn't stick. And because this project is so delicate, you're definitely gonna wanna do this on a no-wind day. Unfortunately, I learned that one the hard way, but it ended up being totally fine. Just a heads up that it seemed like even the slightest breeze carried them off of the paper. So next, we're gonna take a piece of watercolor paper, and I personally really like watercolor paper specifically because it has a beautiful texture to it, and I wanted the edges to feel torn and really organic, so I just folded a little bit on each of the sides and then I ripped along the seams just so it gives the paper that tattered look and it adds a bunch of extra texture to the overall finished look. So now I'm just taking the backing on the photo frame and I'm gonna apply the fabric to this piece directly. So I just allowed for a little bit of fabric overhang, not
not too much, and then I cut the fabric to size, and I also cut little slits in the corners so that they'd be easier to tuck over. So then I just used my handy glue gun and I worked in small sections, and I don't know if the small sections thing is totally necessary, but obviously the longer the glue sits, the weaker it adheres since it can cool down quickly, so I didn't want to take on too much at once if I ran into any issues or snafus, so I just did little sections and it worked well. I also pulled it taut, but I didn't yank on it too hard or anything, just because this was a striped pattern, so I didn't want it to appear wavy or have any bulges, so I just wrapped it around the edge and then I pressed firmly, but I didn't pull it too hard so that the pattern would lay nice and flat. And I loved how this part turned out. It's such an easy way to add pattern and a little punch of personality to your picture frames. So I just laid the watercolor paper on top and then I centered it, and then I secured it using little beads of hot glue in the corners. So then I just added the pressed florals and I arranged them exactly how I wanted. And while I was doing this, I totally thought that it looked like there were two parents and their little kiddos underneath them. But once I had them in the positions that I wanted, I just trimmed off the stems so they would all be even and kind of match. And then obviously I decided to label them with the name of the meadow and the year that I collected them. And I will say, after writing it, I didn't love how off center it was, so I just made a new little label with another piece of watercolor paper instead, and I actually liked the look of that a lot better. And then when it came time to secure the Queen Anne's lace, you could probably use another type of glue that would be better with the delicate pressed flowers, but all I had on hand was the hot glue, so I just used really tiny dabs in the center of the flowers to hold them in place, and it actually worked well. I just made sure to keep the dabs super small so that they wouldn't show. And I am obsessed with how this turned out. I love the combination of materials with the rich textured wood against the soft striped fabric for that little pattern play, and the watercolor paper adds interest but also lets the delicate flowers be the star of the show. And I love that I was able to create a decor piece that not only adds to the aesthetic of my home, but it feels like a little meaningful time capsule to my childhood every time I look at it.
Okay, so unfortunately our cabinet production has gone a lot slower than we thought. So I figured I'd take advantage of the in-between time and just test out a couple more samples for fun, just to like make sure that we really get the right backsplash tile. So I really do love this tile. My only concern is how creamy it is in comparison to our stone. Our stone is a little bit more grayish and it has like those gray undertones. In the tile, we do have this like earthy brown kind of terracotta color, and there are little bits of that in the veining of the stone, so they still do tie together. I just like don't want this contrast to be too much, you know, to where they look like discombobulated, like they look like they don't go together. So I have these gray Zalige samples here, and I just kind of wanted to lay this out and see what we thought, just because I do think that these are a little bit more of the same color of our stone. So that might make things feel a little bit more cohesive. I figured there was no harm in testing the Zalige and seeing what we thought. So I think I can just stack them. I don't know, I do think that this goes with the countertop better, but there is also the issue because we are gonna do the blue tile over the range no matter what. So there would be the issue of having that feel cohesive. Let's put this one here. But basically you would have to do a border because they're different sizes. So we'd have to add a little something in between this blue backsplash here and then the Zalige area. Like I definitely feel like these go together better, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like I was already envisioning this more like rustic European style tile. But this definitely goes with the countertop better. So let me know what you guys think or what you would do in the comments. I feel like I'm getting decision fatigue, and I thought that getting these would kind of make me feel better and like solidify my decision. And I feel like now I'm just like a little bit more confused. I think if I had to pick one that I'm leaning towards, I think that I would go with my gut and do like this more different kind of like rustic aged look tile. I just think it's really unique and I've never seen it in another project before, and I just love the look of it. Okay, so here I wanted to show you guys our cabinet progress. This is our little indoor staining section because it is so hot outside that we decided we needed to do this indoors, just because, you know, when it's 105 and 110 degrees every day, I figured the stain would just probably not react well to those temperatures, or us. So we decided to kind of set up this little station inside.
But we are kind of nearing the end of the drawer box assembly / staining process. So I kind of wanted to explain, quickly why this took us so long and why this set us back so much. So this is what the drawer boxes will look like all assembled. I kind of just set it up here. We originally, when Mike just assembled them, they're basic plywood. So we decided to stain them last minute, which took up a lot of extra time because you have to do a coat of pre-stain conditioner, 1 coat of stain, a 2nd coat of stain, and then 3 coats of sealer on top of that. So it's just very tedious. And these were our original drawer boxes. So this is what we were going to use because they were in decent condition, and we were just going to reface them. So we're going to take our old faces off and then put the new drawer fronts on here. But then once we looked at installing them, we realized that these were too thick to install more modern soft close hardware on. And that was kind of the whole point. We wanted to have a more modern, updated kitchen. So we didn't want to go through all this work and not have soft close cabinets. So the realization that Mike was going to have to make all new drawer boxes was a little daunting just because he has never done that before. And if you look, we have a lot of drawers. So he made all of these drawer boxes, and we kind of thought we were towards the end, and then he realized I'm gonna have to assemble all these drawer boxes. So they're looking good. These are actually made out of birch plywood while everything else is maple. So they stained a little bit differently. We actually didn't do the coat of dark walnut on these. We just did 2 coats of Western oak, and it looks very similar to the drawer fronts. So as you saw over here, this is 1 coat of Western oak with 1 coat of dark walnut with 3 coats of sealer on maple. And it looks pretty similar to just like the 2 coats of Western oak on the birch. So that matches nicely. We also first had an issue where this was the first plywood that we decided to go with because it was the cheapest. And it's basically like a glorified cardboard. Like, this stuff is so light and it wouldn't have been durable. And we bought it in big sheets. So it felt really heavy, and we thought it would be fine. But once we got it home and the drawer box was assembled, it was like, that feels like cardboard. So then we had to go back to the store, get more plywood, and like a little bit more substantial. So then we built the drawer boxes, and then this is what all of the edges look like because it is plywood. And we just didn't really like the look of it. We're like, oh, we're putting in all this effort. We don't want them to look like cheap and, just like quickly assembled. So then we made the decision to put edge banding on. So this is like an iron-on edge banding, and Mike had to do that after all the boxes were already assembled, which ideally you would do it beforehand. It would just be a lot quicker. So that took up, I think, 2 weekends just putting all of that edge banding on there because you got to iron it on and sand it and all that stuff. So that set us back as well. It's just been like one thing after the next. But as you can see, we are getting there. Like, this looks really good. Now I'm kind of getting to the finishing point where I can finally pick out hardware and kind of think about what I want to do with that. But just kind of wanted to update you guys on the process and why this kitchen project has taken so long.
All right, everyone, that about wraps up this video. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help to support the channel. And speaking of supporting the channel, a big thank you goes out to Thrive Market for sponsoring today's video. I hope that you all have a fabulous and wonderful week, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.